Yes. So let's chant the Mangalacharan and we'll continue. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayit. नष्टप्रायेषु अवद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवते उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिके कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः नमः पंकजनाभाय नमः पंकजमालिने नमः पंकजनेत्राय नमस्ते पंकजांग्रहे ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन् इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Welcome you all once again, and we'll continue our discussion. So today we'll continue from Canto 12, chapter number 6 onward. Right. So we have been actually completed half of this chapter 6 on Wednesday, where we have seen. Also, actually, we on Wednesday we discussed about how the 4 analysis process happens. This is described, and then Sudha Goswami gives instructions to Parshit Maharaj as a final instructions, understanding that the knowledge of spirit, soul, and the body, and then at the end, Sudha Goswami glorified Parshit Maharaj that actually we have conquered all the dangers to go to back to Godhead. So you have always been completely absorbed in the discussion of Krishna Katha. And then we discussed about how Maharaj Parshit, he went back to Sukadeva Goswami, and then he paid his obeisances, he glorified Sukadeva Goswami, and then Sukadeva Goswami left that place, and then Takshaknath came. Takshak came as in a disguise, a Brahmana, and then he bite Parshit Maharaj. Parshit Maharaj's body was burned to ashes in a very quickly, very immediately. It's got burned by the poison of the snake. Till that we have discussed earlier, and today we'll continue from there. So Parshit Maharaj's son, Maharaj Janmajaya, so when he heard about this incident, as we know, when Parshit Maharaj came back before 7 days to the river, in the bank of river Ganges to hear Krishna Katha, he was given all his kingdom to Janmajaya, and Maharaj Janmajaya, by hearing this, he became extremely angry, and he then arranged a sacrifice, and he called the Brahmanas, and he asked the Brahmanas to chant this mantras so that all the snakes in this world should come and drop in that sacrifice and they get burned. So the problem here is, as see the two extreme, right? Parshit Maharaj was also capable of counteracting that curse by given by Shringi, that you will get death in 7 days. But Parshit Maharaj took that instruction as the arrangement of Krishna, and he went to listen Katha, Krishna Katha, and then he left his body accordingly. And Mahajanmaya, he became angry and he wanted to punish all the snakes. And second learning comes here is that though Parshit Maharaj has been cursed by one Brahmana, And at the same time, Parshit Maharaj took shelter of other Brahmanas. He could have said, okay, as Brahmanas cut, all family of Brahmanas, I will abandon all Brahmanas. No, but he took shelter of other Brahmanas as well. He went back to all the sages. He took shelter of Śrī Gosvāmī and heard Krishna Katha. And on the other part, Janmajaya, because of angry, he made a sacrifice and asked the Brahmanas to offer your hymns so that all the snakes, they come and they get died in this fire sacrifice. And in this way, so many snakes, they started falling into the sacrifice. And by understanding this Takshaka, he became very, very fearful, and he go back and took shelter of Indra. So he went to Lord Indra and he takes shelter from him. And then after a long time, when the sacrifice was happening, he could see that so many snakes are coming down and burning, but Takshaka is not came yet. And then Maharaj Janmajaya, he asked the Brahmanas, so what is the reason why Takshaka is not coming in the fire? That's the main purpose, that Takshaka also come into this fire. However, the Brahmana says that actually Takshaka has taken a shelter of Indra. That's why he is not coming here. And then Maharaj Janmajaya, and though he was completely angry, he said, okay, you Brahmanas chant the mantras so that even Indra, he comes and fall into in the sacrifice with Takshaka. So just imagine how angry he was, right? And then Maharaj Janmajaya say, okay, let Indra come and fall into the fire as well, but I want to kill Takshaka anyway. So anyone who is giving shelter to Takshaka, he should also be killed in this sacrifice. And the Brahmanas, by hearing this, they chanted the mantras. They started chanting the mantras for offering Indra as well as Takshaka into the as an oblation to the sacrificial fire. And Brahspati, the spiritual master of these devatas, especially the Indra, and by understanding these incidents, he approached to Maharaj Janmajaya, and then he actually consoled. He said, it's not fit or it's not good that the king of snakes meet death at your hands. So the life, and he teaches a philosophy as well. He said that life and death of an embodied soul and his destination in the next life are all caused by himself through his own activity. So again, the point is basically the way a living entity lives his life, or the way he's intact in his activities, that destiny makes him define the next life, what it will be, and how even not the life, it says the life as well as death. And therefore, O King Janmajaya, there is no other agent is actually responsible for creating one's happiness and distress, because actually Janmajaya was quite distressed and angry because of his father, Maharaj Parshit Maharaj, right? So that's why Brahspati came and consoled that the destination is actually because of his own activities, and so you should not, because of one's fault, you should not punish whole community, right? Let's for example, right, just for the sake of example, if someone is bad, it doesn't mean the whole community is bad, right? And if he have done something wrong, then it doesn't mean that whole community should be punished. So that's the teaching Brahspati gave to Janmajaya Maharaj. However, Janmajaya Maharaj was also a very great devotee. So he got distracted because of the angry, but now he understood things, what had happened. And then Brahspati Maharaj, Brahspati, he says that please stop this sacrificial or the sacrifice, and which was initiated with the intent to doing harm to others. And anyway, many innocent snakes have already been burned to death because of this sacrifice. So the Takshaka has done this act because of the curse by Shringi, but the other innocent snakes, they have faced the death because of with the sacrifice. So kindly stop this. And by hearing these pleasing words and consoling words by Brahspati, Janmajaya Maharaj, he stopped the sacrifice. And then Sukadeva Goswami sorry, Sūta Gosvāmī, not here. Sūta Gosvāmī already has left the place. Sūta Gosvāmī has started narrating these pastimes now to Śaunaka Ṛṣi. He says nicely, he gives this point that tolerate all insults and never fail to show proper respect to anyone. So insults should be tolerated, right? We should tolerate our insult anyone, but at the same time, everyone should show proper respect to everyone. So showing a respect is another thing, and tolerating respect another thing, right? So we should not get diverted in these two. So we should be tolerating the insult, at the same time proper respect to be given to everyone, and avoiding identification with the material body. One should not create enmity with anyone. So we discussed this point many times, that we should try to see others as Krishna is residing in every living entity, not the body. As a soul, he is there, and hence we should not create any kind of enmity with anyone. And then he says, I offer my obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, and simply by meditating upon his lotus feet, I have been able to study and appreciate this great literature. So Sūta Gosvāmī now saying that, I have actually, by meditating on Krishna's lotus feet, and I have gone through the study of all these Vedas and literature, and then I appreciate this great literature, Srimad Bhagavatam. And then Śaunaka Ṛṣi, though all rishis, they headed by Śaunaka Ṛṣi, they asked a question to Sūta Gosvāmī. He says, please narrate us how Paila Ṛṣi and other disciples of Srila Vyasadeva, they spoke and edited these Vedas. So, these Vedas are actually, earlier it was one, but it got divided into many parts, in 4 primary parts, and then in more divisions and divisions. So the question asked by Śaunaka Ṛṣi, that please narrate all how it happened, how this Vedas got divided into many, many parts. And Sūta Gosvāmī spoke to others, to Śaunaka Ṛṣi. He says, first, this transcendental sound vibration appeared to the heart of Lord Brahmā. We discussed I think in second canto and first canto as well, and in second canto, how Lord Brahmā was actually, he could not see anything. He was in dark, and he started meditating. He just heard 2 words, tapa, and then he started doing meditation, and then all this knowledge came into his heart through sound vibration. And then from there, he says that from there they arose Omkara, or Om, having 3 syllables, O, U, and Ma, A, U, and M, you say in English. So A, U, and Ma, that Om. And from that, the entire expanse of Vedic sound is elaborated from Omkara. So Omkara is again a representation of Lord Sri Krishna, basically impersonal representation of Krishna. And then from that Omkara, Lord Brahmā created all sounds of the alphabet. Like, we see like in songs, there are primary 7 surah, and from that 7 words, all things has come. In the similar way, from this Omkara, everything has been created by Lord Brahmā, and then he created the sounds of alphabet, vowels, consonants, semi-vowels, and sibilants, and all others. And from his 4 faces, he produced 4 Vedas. And then Brahmā taught these Vedas to his sons, who were great sages among the Brahmanas, and they are expert in the art of Vedic recitation. And they in turn took the role of Acharya and imparted the Vedas to their own sons. So gradually, it actually came from Brahmā, from Lord Krishna to Brahma's heart, and from downwards over there. And Sūta Gosvāmī narrates that at the end of Dwapara Yuga, because earlier it's being said that, when the spiritual masters or the Acharya, they speak to the disciples, they could hear it, and just by hearing, they could remember everything. That's called Shrutidhara. So just by hearing once, they could perfectly remember everything. But now in today's world, it's not possible in Kali Yuga, isn't it? Even by repeatedly hearing the same message, we do not understand the things. We need to make notes, or we need to revise it again and again and again, like that. So by seeing that, at the end of each Dwapara Yuga, So we have seen Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. So at the end of each Dwapara Yuga, the Vedas are edited in separate divisions by eminent sages. So depending upon this, as we discussed earlier about all the Manus. So we have seen the Saptarishis that comes, the Manu, the Devatas that comes, the Manu rules. In a similar way, in every Yuga, there are eminent sages who is to separate this literature. And these great sages, they took inspiration from Lord within their heart, and they systematically divided these Vedas. And now he says about this Yuga. He says, in this age of Vaivasvata Manu, Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva requested Lord Krishna to save this principle of religion. So both Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, they requested Lord Vishnu to save the principles of religion, and hence Lord appeared in the womb of Mother Satyavati as a son of the Parashar. So Parashar Muni and Satyavati, they had a son, and that is Lord Krishna appeared in the name of Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa, though that's we known as Vyasa Deva. So in this Manu, so Vyasa Deva appeared, and he divided this one Veda into four part. So devotees explain this very nicely. Also, it is here described by Sūta Gosvāmī that let's suppose when the four Vedas that came out from the mouth of Lord Brahma, it was all piled in one place. Like let's suppose in one mouth, it came as a blue stone, other maybe green stone, from other red stone, yellow stones. So all are piled in one, right? And what Vyasadeva did is, Vyasadeva basically he collected those yellow stones into one group, red stone into one group, green to one, and to one. So in this way, this whole Veda has been divided into four parts, and those are Rig Veda, Atharva Veda, Yajur Veda, and Sama Veda. And then Srila Vyasadeva, though he is an incarnation of Lord Krishna himself, and he taught these samhitas to others after dividing. He says the samhitas and the Rig Veda to Paila Ṛṣi. So Paila Ṛṣi, he became kind of more prominent to go through the Rig Vedas, and then he gave this collection name as Vaurcha, and then he gave Vaishampayana. He spoke the collection to Yajur Mantra and named Nigada. So the second Rishi Vaishampayana, he took Ajur Veda and Rig Veda by Paila Ṛṣi, and then Sama Veda is to Jaimini Ṛṣi, and to Atharva Veda to Sumanta. So this four division, Paila Ṛṣi, he was prominent for Rig Veda, and Vaishampayana Ṛṣi for Yajur Yajur Veda, and for Sama Veda it is Jaimini Ṛṣi, and Atharva Veda it is Sumanta. So from there, and after that, these four, they divided it into many parts, and again it's went on. So from there to disciples to their disciples, and from their disciples to their disciples, it went in that way, right? And in chapter 7, it's called as a Purāṇic literature. There we'll see about more the Purāṇas, right? And then now Sūta Gosvāmī says that I have learned this Purāṇas thoroughly from his father Romaharshana, and he divided the Purāṇas into the four basic compilation as well. And then he said the 10 topics of Purāṇa are, we have discussed this in very starting of our Srimad Bhagavatam session, as well as it comes in second canto, that it gives all these 10 topics. What are those? Atra sarga visargascha sthanam poshanam utaya manavantara sanokatha nirodho mukti ashraya. And then the same thing is being narrated again by Sūta Gosvāmī, that there are 10 divisions, 10 topics in the Purāṇas. These are basically creation of the universe, sub-creation, planetary system, protection by the Lord, creative impetus, the change of Manus, the science of God, returning home back to Godhead, liberation, and shamanbanam. So mukti, ashraya, nirodha, sharga, visarga, sthana, poshana, utaya. So we have discussed all this gradually, and devotee explained this, that each canto of Srimad Bhagavatam also covers all these 10 topics, but in uh, one becomes prominent in that, right? And in others become prominent. But anyway, this all 10 topics are also covered in each canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And let's, for example, ashraya tattva is all completely given on our canto 10. That's Krishna's lotus feet, to take Krishna's shelters. That's a kind of ashraya. And if you see in sarga, in canto 2, it's very clearly described about this creation, right? And even in we seen about the in one canto, this whole manu, how it happens, that create decide. And then one is Poshana, where you see canto 7, Prahlad Maharaj pastimes, right? In this way, in one particular canto, one topic is elaborately described. However, the 10 topic also comes in the same canto too. And then by describing this, Sutta Goswami says that there are 18 Purāṇas, and also these 18 Purāṇas are divided into three categories. Three categories means in three modes. So 6 Purāṇas are come into mode of goodness, 6 into mode of passion, and 6 into mode of ignorance. And those are called as, Bhagavad Purāṇa, the Srimad Bhagavad Purāṇa, Srimad Bhagavatam, that is one. Then Vishnu Purāṇa, Padma Purāṇa, Narad Purāṇa, Garuda Purāṇa, Varaha Purāṇa. So these 6 Purāṇas, these are called as Purāṇas in the mode of goodness. So what are those? Srimad Bhagavatam, Vishnu Purāṇa, Padma Purāṇa, Garuda Purāṇa, and Varaha Purāṇa, and Narad Purāṇa. These 6, it comes in mode of goodness. And then second set, or second 6, that's a Vavana Purāṇa, Mārkaṇḍeya Purāṇa, Brahmā Purāṇa, Vaivishya Purāṇa, Brahmā Vaivarta Purāṇa, and Brahmāṇḍa Purāṇa. This comes in mode of passion. And the third, or mode of the mode of ignorance, that is Matsya, Kurma, Linga, Skanda, Agni, and Shiva Purāṇa. So these 18 Purāṇas are divided into mode of passion, mode of goodness, and mode of ignorance. And top mode of those is Bhagavad Purāṇa. And he says these 18 major Purāṇas are the Brahma, Padma, Vishnu, Shiva, Linga, Garuda, Narada, Bhagavad, that we discussed now. And one who listens to these narrations with faith will increase in spiritual strength. So Sutta Goswami says that one who understand this concept, or this understanding, and he hear this is narrations about the division of Purāṇas and this whole pastimes of Krishna, he actually increases in his own spiritual strength. So by hearing these pastimes again and again and again and again, we become more strengthen our faith in Krishna, right? And then in chapter 8, there's a very, very nice discussion happens. It's been described. We'll try to see it. That is Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi prayers to Nara-Nārāyaṇa Ṛṣi. So we'll try to see it. So Śaunaka Ṛṣi, they have asked a question here to Sutta Goswami, saying that the authorities they say that the Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi, who is the son of Mrikundu, he survived annihilation at the end of Brahma's days, and also he saw an infant boy lying on the banyan leaf. Just give me a second here. I'm trying to find this picture. This very nice picture. You might have seen earlier as well. Okay, anyway, I'm not getting it. I'll get it and let you know later on. Maybe, yes. Yeah, I got one. So there's a small one, but let's try to see this one. Hope you have seen this picture earlier as well, right? It's visible, isn't
Yes,
it?
Prabhu.
Lord Krishna on a leaf, banyan, right? So that's a nice pastime. Comes from this picture comes from actually these pastimes of Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi, right? So Śaunaka Ṛṣi, they asked that we have heard from the authorities that the Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi, he survived an annihilation at the end of Brahma's day, and also he saw an infant baby lying on a banyan leaf. And I'm a bit confused about this. So could you please dispel my confusion? So that's how Śaunaka Ṛṣi asks this question to Sūta Gosvāmī, and then Sūta Gosvāmī, he narrates this. He says that yes, so Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi was a great Rishi, and he studied the Vedic hymns, and he strictly followed or observed the regulative principles, and he became advanced in austerity and Vedic knowledge. So he was very, very kind of strong in this Vedic knowledge. He practiced his austerity very, very dedicatedly, very strictly, and he controlled his senses, and he worshipped the supreme master of the senses, Rishikesha, Krishna's, who is controlling all the senses. So he worshipped Krishna very, very dedicatedly, and he in fact he worshipped Lord Krishna for millions of years, and in this way he even conquered the unconquerable death. So by worshipping Lord Krishna for millions of years, this Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi, he has achieved this boon, like not boon, basically he has conquered the death. And everyone was astonished by hearing these achievements of Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi. Everyone is taking from Lord Brahmā, Lord Shiva, even Lord Indra, and all others, right? So during the seventh reign of Manu, or the current age, the Lord Indra came to know of Mārkaṇḍeya's austerities, and he became a little fearful of his growing mystic potency. So the devotee explained that whenever something happens, when anyone becomes very powerful, first is Indra get fears of his position, and Lord Indra, he became fearful of Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi because he was so dedicated in the austerities. And then to ruin the Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi's spiritual practice, Lord Indra sent Kamdeva or Cupid, and very, very beautiful celestial singers and apsaras he sent to him to distract him, to distract Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi. So these servants of Indra, they found this, also even describe about this Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi's ashram nicely in this canto, in this chapter. And these servants of Indra, they found the sages. He was sitting in meditation, and he was having offered his prescribed oblation into the sacrificial fire, and his eyes was completely closed, and he was in trance. He was completely meditating on Lord Krishna. And then these all the Cupid and the celestial singers and the dancers, the apsaras, they try to agitate Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi's mind. So somehow they wanted to disturb Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi. And even the apsaras, they dancing, singing, and even the Cupid, he was actually all ready with all the arrows of Cupid arrows, so that he could try to agitate Mārkaṇḍeya. And all these attempts to seduce Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi is proven futile. So everything got failed to all the attempts by this Kamdeva as well as these celestial singers and the dancers, it failed. And then Indra became astonished to hear that the mystic power of Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi. So anyway, he was already bewildered, but now by hearing that, even the Cupid and the Apsaras, they could not deviate Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi, and they could not, make him any kind of disturbance to him. And by hearing this, he became more astonished to this, and he could understand that how this Cupid and his all associated, they become powerless in front of Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi. So that's how because he was completely focused on Krishna's lotus feet. And so to bestow mercy on Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi, Lord himself appeared before him in the form of Nara and Nārāyaṇa. So Lord Krishna, in Badrikashram, we know that the incarnation is Lord Nara-Nārāyaṇa Ṛṣi. So this Nara-Nārāyaṇa Ṛṣi, they both approach to Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi, and it's been described about their form and appearance and their look. It says one of them was whitish complexion and the other was blackish, and they both had 4 arms, Chaturbhuj, the Narayana, and their eyes resembled the petals of blossoming lotuses, and they wore garment of black deer skin and bark, along with the 3 standard sacred thread in their hands, which were most purifying. They carried the mendicant's water pot, straight bamboo step, so danda, kamandalu, and sacred threads of Brahmanas, and this 400 form. One is black and one is white, and as well as they all purifying Vedas in the symbols forms of the bundles of the grass, Darva grass, and their bearing was tall, and their yellow effulgence the color of radiant lightning, appearing as an austerity personality, and they were being worshipped by the foremost demigods. So the complexion of both and how their look, the 400 form, this Nara-Nārāyaṇa Ṛṣi, they appeared before Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi. And the Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi, by seeing them, he paid his obeisances as a Dandavat flat stick. He fell down on their feet, and in a very, very choked voice, actually he wanted to embrace both because, out of love. However, in a very choked and ecstasy voice, he repeatedly said, "I offer you my humble obeisances." And he then gave a nice sitting place to both of them, and then washed their feet nicely, and then he glorified to both. He says, "Because you are the protector and the supreme controller of all moving and non-moving beings, anyone who takes shelter of your lotus feet can never be touched by the contamination of metal work." So see the glorification of lotus feet of Lord Hari, that anyone who takes shelter at your lotus feet, they can never be touched by the contamination of metal work. So it is basically, even in this metal world, we have to work, but if we take shelter of Lord Krishna, who is Adokshaja, who is beyond these 3 modes, even he will help us to we will become the same as well. We will be untouched by this contamination of metal work. We won't become God, but I'm saying we will be transcendent to these 3 modes too, right? And we can be and Krishna says that, we have discussed earlier as well, when we dedicate our things, our work, our activities to Krishna, we are not being bound by our work, right? And then also he is not touched by the contamination of not only work. He says the devotee, they are not being touched by the contamination of metal qualities or time. Not only work, with qualities and time as well. These 3 modes cannot bind him, neither the time. So time, how we understand how time cannot bind a devotee? We all know that, even this body has to be given up. But we understand how it doesn't bind is the way that for a devotee, at the time of death, Krishna helps them to come back to Vaikuntha Loka or to his Dhamma, or put them in his service. And at the same time, the non-devotees, at the death, Krishna comes as time, or Krishna comes as death to the non-devotees. So this example you have given, understood earlier, like how this cat, right, in the same jaw, she eats a rat, the rat becomes fearful by seeing the jaw of a cat. But at the same time, the same jaw is very lovely for his child. At the same time, the same jaw is being used to capture a rat. At the same time, when a dog comes behind this cat used to take her child on the same jaw and run away from there. So the same jaw acts in the both way. One is protecting for a child and death for a rat. In the similar way, the time comes to even for devotees, even for non-devotees, right? But Krishna take care of the devotees, and the non-devotees, they go and in this Janamritu cycle, right? And then Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi says the great sages who have assimilated the essential meaning of the Vedas, they offer their prayers to you. So we have seen throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam, this all the great personalities, they pay obeisances onto Lord Krishna's lotus feet, and that's the essence of all Vedas, to get love of Godhead. And then very nice couple of more points. He says that to gain your association, they bow down to you at every opportunity and constantly worship you and meditate upon you. So how can we do that? Like, by keeping a deity at our home, by worshiping deity, by meditating on the deity, by giving prasad bhoga to him, and then we take this remnant. This way, a devotee takes all this opportunity to worship and meditate Lord Sri Krishna. And very, very, I like this point. He says, I do not know any relief from the fear of time except shelter at your lotus feet. So I do not know anything else who can give me relief from this fear of time, because even for the fear of time is still there to Lord Brahma as well. Though we have understood yesterday on previous class that Lord Brahma's life is so huge, 311 trillion years, but still that's the time. And even when time comes, Lord Brahma says as well. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, "A Brahma bhavunaloka punavartina Arjuna, ma'amupetyatu kaunteya punarajanmana vidyati." So even for the Brahmas, there's a time, right? And then he says, I do not see any relief from the fear of time except the shelter at your lotus feet. Krishna says, "Ma'amupetyatu kaunteya punarajanmana vidyati." So one who takes shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna, there is no punarjanma, there is no birth in this material world, and therefore I worship at your lotus feet constantly. And that's how Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi offered his prayer to Nara-Nārāyaṇa Ṛṣi. And then he says, by attaining you, the supreme Godhead and the master of all soul, one attains everything desirable. Nothing else remain to know, nothing else remain to get, or nothing. There is no more desire of anyone of the devotee who actually attains your loving service. And even though one's understanding has been covered by your illusionary potency, we understand that we are being covered by illusionary potency of Lord Sri Krishna. And he says, if one obtains Vedic knowledge from you, the supreme spiritual master of all, he can directly understand you. So how it is possible for us to get direct knowledge from Lord Sri Krishna? Because Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi is saying here that if one obtains Vedic knowledge from you, you are the supreme spiritual master, he can directly understand you, and the covering of illusory potency will go away. The covering will be taken off. How it happens? How it's possible? Is it possible for us to take teachings from Krishna directly? So there are great devotees like Uddhava, Arjuna, they could take learning from Lord Krishna, but what about us? So for us, Krishna sends spiritual masters in a parampara, so that by taking shelter at the lotus feet of spiritual masters, our acharyas, by following the footsteps of acharyas, we can actually understand Krishna. So that's the way to understand Krishna, because Krishna says the guru is the representative of Krishna himself, right? So that's how Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi glorified Lord Sri Krishna, and he he paid obeisances to him. And in the next chapter, we'll see how the real question of Śaunaka Rishi being answered by Sūta Gosvāmī. As of now, Sūta Gosvāmī described about the quality of Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi, that he was a great devotee and he was completely fixed his mind in the lotus feet of Lord Hari. Even the Cupid, the Kāmadeva, even Apsaras, the damsels, they came and they could not distract him. And once this interaction happened between Nara-Nārāyaṇa Ṛṣi and Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi, Nara-Nārāyaṇa Ṛṣi, Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi actually he desired to see something. We'll discuss in the next chapter. And Lord Krishna showed him that great form. That's how Mārkaṇḍeya Ṛṣi survived the annihilation of the day of Brahmā as well. Right. Thank you, everyone. Any questions, any thought, please let us know. So we have covered chapter till chapter 8. We'll continue on Monday of chapter 9. And we have 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 more, 5, 6 chapters. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Granthraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Vaishnava Vrinda ki
Jai.
Hare Krishna.